6,000, 7,000 years old, man.
So simple.
It's
You are
pretty
a
young.
believer. Okay, thank you. Cool.
Well, I just think, Matt, the reason why I asked you earlier about, did you mention the dating of recorded history? And you said, yeah, of course, it only goes back 5,000 years. That's something that's always been strange to me when people debate the old Earth versus young. For example, it's proposed that man has been around for, 200,000 years. All right, we only have 5,000 years of recorded history. So you mean to tell me it took man 195,000 years to figure out how to communicate with one another through writing?
I used to actually.
That's always been strange to me.
I used to make Facebook posts about that. I was like, how is it that it took that many years for man to actually figure out how to, write something on a piece of stone? And because there's a huge gap. I mean, there seems to be a way off here. That what would it been like 200? I mean, since man evolved from his last common ancestor, would have been like 200,000 years, or is it 2 million? I can't remember what the day is. So let's imagine man pops into his final stage in evolution 250,000 years ago. And then they only managed just 5,000 years ago to actually start putting paper to pen, or putting, knife to rock. That's kind of strange. But I actually used to ask that question. I'd make posts about that on Facebook. And the bloviating atheists went crazy when I'd do that.
Bloviating atheists. That's funny.
They would be pooping their pants when they read.
Really?
I like that, yeah. If you want to debate the resurrection, man, I have no problem not debating that. I don't like that topic. I like topics with, like, evolution and theology.
Yeah, I know
actual
what.
research.
Toxic, how about you and Jason debate evolution?
Yeah, but like a specific topic.
Yeah, you can poop all over evolution and laugh in its face.
Yeah, what about natural selection?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't debate natural selection.
Do you think natural selection is a process or occurs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you do think that.
Yeah, I just don't think that it's evolution. You know what I'm saying? So that was debate.
Wait a minute, you think the natural selection occurs, but you don't think evolution occurs.
Yeah, by means of natural selection, no.
So you don't think? Okay, I'm confused, but whatever.
Yeah, natural selection exists in the world. We can see it happen, right? You can see natural selection.
What is natural selection?
That the strongest survive.
Well, you know that natural selection involves I say random mutation. It's not real, not truly random, but generally it's considered the combination of random mutation with environmental pressures. And so thus, when populations, their environmental pressures change based on fitness, that results in certain mutations moving to fixation, whether they be beneficial or deleterious. And that results in species changing.
You lost him there, Jason.
Yeah, probably so.
Well, no, I mean Taylor. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no to what you're saying, Jason. But what Taylor talked about is as far as survival of the fittest. Someone said, "Oh, yeah, that's just a generic explanation of it." But it is based on which creature is able to best adapt to their environment. So what he's saying is not really incorrect. It's just a different way of explaining it, but it's generally the case. The strong do survive, and what he's talking about is what we see. It's generic, but what he's saying is we do observe that, and I actually agree with him.
Well,
decision that you make, whether, say, it's like you choose A or B, right? And so in one world you choose A over B, in the other world you choose B over A, right? The idea is that like that's contingent and
I'll debate whether
It's real simple, talk.
yeah, if you want to talk about evolution and stuff too, like I know a lot about evolution.
Right?
I'll debate, but we ain't specific, like you said, like older versus younger, that's another thing too. So older is 3.4 billion years old. You think you could cover that in like an opening statement?
Yeah, talk. People get stoned, yeah?
No.
What?
All right, Jason.
It's a long time.
You look like you've tripped over some more fruit for you to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's a long time, 3.4 billion years old. You have to fucking cover like a space and time. You know,
No offense, Toxic, but if I debate you on that topic, I'm gonna get abused because it's like you're like
All right, we don't debate that.
I'm gonna get humiliated by my friends for like beating up on you. It's not gonna be fair.
Oh, okay. I thought you were being serious. So you want to debate when the Stone Age happened?
I don't think he wants to debate you. It's gonna damage
You
the
challenged me to a debate the other day. Now you're celebrating?
James is
I think you gotta let him speak for himself.
Corletta, it's not going to damage his reputation. He already has that reputation.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, hey Matt, you better watch out because I'm debating you. It doesn't look kindly on you if Jason is debating Matt Adams and my reputation is debating low tier opponents.
Ooh.
Yeah, I agree. Y'all remember how Converse got upset that time? About talking about John Lee and I, and he got very upset because he felt like he was kind of higher tier than John Lee and I, and I can't remember the exact details. I know John Lee remembers it. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's commonly believed by atheists and even some who say they're Christians, like Converse, that someone like I or John Lee are low tier opponents.
Yeah, Converse is Christian, Matt. Like 100%.
Yeah, no, but he got upset one time because I can't remember the full details, but I think he got upset because
there was a video, I don't remember. He had a debate with Jack Armstrong. Jack lost his temper with him and was like cussing him out and stuff. And I think he just felt it was like, and it either went on Tom's channel or I think it might have been Daz's channel. I'm not entirely sure. One of them. And he just felt like he was being like lumped in with you guys as like the comic,
yeah,
right? Like the lols cow. That's why he was pissed off.
yeah, that was his main reason for being pissed off. Not that he was like maybe getting destroyed by Jack or something, but that he was kind of.
Which I don't think was happening. I think they were getting stuck on a some definitions.
But just
I don't think he got destroyed by Jack. I don't think it was happening.
He would have been put in the same category as John.
Well, John. I mean, do you think John Lee is? Well, I'll just rest there. So. Good dog. I know.
Hey, can anybody please ask Toxic or the great Matt Adams if they could just answer my question I posted 4 minutes ago, please?
Why do you want Toxic to answer? Why don't you ask him?
Yeah, I didn't see a question. Could you just?
Let's get Matt's answer. It'll be less offensive.
Are you sure? You guys seem to be.
You know what? Now that you say that out loud.
PA, would you be moderating Sean and I possibly this weekend, Sunday, on whether it's atheism is reasonable or whether there's good reason to be an atheist? Kind of a fun clubhouse debate. Kind of a preliminary.
Yeah, I've never moderated a debate, Matt. I might not.
Well, I guess it'd be more like a kind of informal debate. He's been back channeling me like crazy, and I suggested. I said, well, okay, I said, let's debate. Does an atheist have good reasons to be an atheist? And
are we talking Sean Burton or
Sean? Crazy Sean. I don't know how you. Gigi. That doesn't narrow it down. Gigi.
That's right.
What's his name? I forgot his last name. Hold on, let me see. Sean H.
Sean H. Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to help any way I can, man. I like good discussions.
He makes
Yeah, I don't mind.
said, okay, it's on Buckaroo, so I told him I might be available sometime Sunday evening because I think my wife, since it's Mother's Day, is going to be going out with some other mothers watching a movie or something. So I might have some free time.
You mean birth in person?
Correct, yeah. But yeah, what was the question to the one guy?
Yeah, Chris, go ahead and ask your question, Chris. Where is he? He was here a second ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris, ask your question.
Yeah, well, until he figures out how to ask the question, I was just going to say I don't think I'll be home.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't think I'll be home this weekend because I'm traveling to Canada.
Hey, you stay with my wife, Tony on.
Is it the antibiotic question, Chris?
Oh,
Is that the one you want to answer?
Yep.
Oh, it says explain it without the theory of evolution. God did it.
That's not
It's
it.
a good answer. It's a good answer. It's a good answer, Matt.
What was his question? What was his question?
It's very confusing.
He didn't answer the whole question, did he?
What was the question?
Efflux pumps, are they a primary driver of antibiotic resistance, or are they simply one of the many mechanisms that bacteria use to resist antibiotics?
Well, there was
So,
another
bacteria's evolve?
question there about and explain how it works without evolution theory. I'm saying how it works without evolution theory is God did.
God done it. God done it.
Okay, you
I gotta be honest. So if a fitter species survives, or a fitter kind of the same species, or whatever you want to call it, survives, that is not proof of another
Okay.
kind.
Toxic or Matt. Heretic, toxic or Matt.
Like, if you can observe 25, 60,000 generations of bacteria evolving, quote unquote, like, why haven't they evolved into something else, like a not bacteria?
What?
Are you a bacteria?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to advise you again to not debate toxic.
I
Is it
am-
theory of evolution? Is that the topic?
Let me clarify this. Let me clarify this, because atheists don't really understand their own religion. Alright? Are you eukaryote or a prokaryote?
That's a better question. Because I was going to say I'm part bacteria.
No, he's asking about this.
Why
Are you a eukaryote?
the bacteria is talking to us by now?
If you don't know what a eukaryote is, you don't need to voice your opinion. So Chris, are you a eukaryote or a prokaryote?
What's it? I love Toxic. Toxic, I love you, bro. You've made me laugh so hard. I needed that, bro. I really needed it. Thanks a lot.
Alright, there's another reason for Jason not to debate me on this.
That's right.
Well, the problem with the theory of evolution is it gets into such vagary, like stuff like that. I mean, that's
Okay, Nobody said
They
you
don't know what a eukaryote or a prokaryote is, and that's what, like, if you get like T-Rob on your TV, like T-Rob
Why didn't you guys say eukaryote? Why didn't you guys just say eukaryote?
No, because they don't know what eukaryote is even. They just believe it wholesale. They're not like evolutionists, like Aaron Ron and fucking T-Rob and shit. They're not evolutionists. They don't actually believe the shit. They just believe the guys that tell them it's true.
You're going to be a Eucharist,
smart doing it.
Yeah, this is what the debate would turn into.
This is what they do.
Well,
Now, hey,
Robert,
have you, like, there's bacteriologists,
that
and this is what they
evolution will
do.
be demonstrated in all the whole processes in the lab the whole way through one time.
No, they're bacteriologists.
You remember
watch.
saying-
You what? Jason, if you
I was just saying, your mouth must be watering, right? Like, it's just getting more and more tempting to engage with.
no,
Yeah.
no. Jason is in a lose-lose scenario right now.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
I think you could put Toxic and Matt together and just call them the Dream Team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no point in talking to these people. Just troll them because that's what all they do to you.
Well, we got to round up some bacteria that'll talk in our.
They do it to you.
So
if you do it better,
it's gonna take us a while to round those guys.
It's a different competition. Like we just should compete and who's a better troll.
There's a cream for that, Andrew.
Y'all can't debate that.
Being a troll, you'd win that one, Toxic. I'm pretty sure.
Hey, Andrew,
stop trolling.
We have some troll. I think we've got the top two.
They can't debate. They can't troll. Come on, don't be such a pessimist. They're not debating. They're not trolling very well either.
Yeah, dude, it's like just this pure posturing, man. It gets so fucking boring. Like, pony up, put some shit on the fucking.
Does anyone here know what a eukaryote is? Does anyone know what a eukaryote is?
Oh my god, dude. Are you gonna put something on the fucking table? Or are you gonna keep posturing, dude? Seriously.
So you know what a eukaryote is?
Cell organism is a fucking membrane. A prokaryote is a fucking cell organism without a membrane.
Very good, James. You know more about evolution than the atheists do.
Shit.
When have we witnessed? When have we witnessed?
My BSC just means shit, bro.
Christopher, when have we witnessed a bacteriologist see a eukaryote come out of a prokaryote? When does this happen? In 60, 70, 80, 100,000 generations under the microscope. When does this happen?
Did you?
Okay, wait, Chris Taylor.
Can you do that in an Indian accent?
It's amazing how many offensive buttons he presses at once. It's just amazing.
Hold on a second. Guys, Taylor just went from under the sea to fucking on top of the desert in like 3.1. What the hell happened there, bro? How'd you do it?
Yep.
Taylor, can you try to say that again with an Indian accent?
Oh god. And this is the guy at the helm, folks.
So when have we seen a prokaryote become a eukaryote under a microscope? We witnessed evolution under a microscope. Thousands and thousands and thousands of generations of bacteria right before our very eyes. When does this happen?
So when does this happen that we see a prokaryote and a eukaryote under the microscopic conditions? I don't know what you people are talking about.
When do we see evolution under the microscope? We see the evolution of bacteria. They stay prokaryote for several thousand generations. When do they become eukaryote? Bacteria evolution.
Can we do a Chinese voice this time? Let's do a Chinese voice too.
Yo, this.
I can do every tongue of the whole face of the earth, every tribe.
I'll take you. I'll bet you can't. I'll take you up on that bet, heretic.
All right, sweet. Let's set a date.
Saturday, 1700 Eastern time.
Shit, I'm booked Saturday.
Yo, Jason, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Jason, I would like to apologize. I feel sorry for you, bro.
Yeah, Jason, I think you're in over your head.
God is love. God is love. Prove me wrong.
Hey, this Brett person, what is Does your profile name have something to do with Sophia?
As in the idea of wisdom. If you've ever studied philosophy, it's the idea, the concept of attaining wisdom within oneself. Right?
I understand that. I don't know if you know Sophia. Do you know Sophia, the person Sophia? She has a channel that's called Sophia. I just wondered if you don't know who she is. Like your handle is totally separate from that, right?
I'm an independent philosopher, so.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious. I just wanted to know if your name somehow is associated with her, but that's fine.
No, that would be negative.
Okay, that's fine.
But Jason, what would you say? How would you respond to Tom?
No, hey, Daniel, this conversation cannot continue until you atheists go down to Google or go Ogle or go Ogle, whatever you want to call it, with your definitions. Your definitions and aspects. And you can look up prokaryote and eukaryote, and I want you guys to figure out the difference in the definitions of a cell membrane and nucleotide. Whatever, anyway.
Dude, you gonna ever stop? Alright. Did you want to debate whether it's reasonable to believe the Bible or whether it's reasonable to believe evolution? And you can pick which one you want to be, the defender or the offender, and whatever. I'll take either of those.
I don't really care.
If you think that you're gonna embarrass me, you want to be the defense?
Why don't you pick one?
Alright.
Which one do you think you perform better at?
Evolution.
Okay, fine.
Because then you can be the defender. So if it's like you could say, well, I was defending my beliefs. I wasn't attacking his, right? There's just a handicap.
Okay. Yeah, we could talk about evolution. It's fine. You don't think evolution happened? You think evolutionary theory is valid? You don't think so, right?
No.
Why don't you think so?
God, no. Holy fuck, no. I think it's a delusion. I think you guys are fucking retarded.
Why is it a retarded view?
Because you guys literally go long ago and far away, magic fairy tale, add time, and this shit can happen. And you've never witnessed any of it, but you swear by faith and hope that it exists. It's retarded.
Yeah, it's called from goo to you, buddy.
The question was actually to me and not heretic. The grandson.
We want to hear it from heretic, actually. Sorry.
Alright, well, I'll shut up. You can ask heretic now. This question you asked me.
No, buy stop, bro. You give her.
I mean, you go to the doctor, heretic?
Fuck no. Are you serious? I'm not going to see that dumb fuck. He just wants to stick his fingers in my ass. You guys all know.
So you don't go to a doctor. If you get sick, you don't go to a doctor.
No. Are you dumb?
Okay.
Wait, you guys go to a doctor? You guys what? Get the sniffle and your butt itches, and you're like, I gotta see a dude.
Look, what if you broke your leg? You gonna go to the doctor?
Okay, yeah. Bro, actually, but that won't happen. Well, okay, wait. If I broke a leg, but that won't happen. I won't break a bone, dude. It's not gonna happen.
Alright.
What are you doing? I haven't yet, and it's not gonna happen. God said that he wouldn't break my bones, and I believe.
Oh my God, I can't do this.
Yes, you can. Bro, your profile picture says different. Your profile picture says you can do anything.
That's what y'all want to tell us. You get them.
Hello, beautiful people.
And no, if I get cancer, I'm not gonna pray away. I'm not gonna get cancer. If I get cancer, I'm gonna die some other way. I'm gonna be like, fuck that. I'm not going reclined. Shitting my pants surrounded by loved ones. Are you serious? No deal.
So you're just not gonna get it. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
How do you know that?
Well, because I already know how I'm going, bro.
Sounds kind of like the Steve Jobs strategy.
Bro, my last words before I wake up are gonna be like, Jesus Christ, stop, I'm already full.
Oh my god. Okay. I think I may have met my match.
Oh, bro. I am so scary.
Are you gonna do a debate with Heretic too?
No, I'm not debating anybody. No.
You like to open your big mouth. It's time for you to defend your flat earth.
No.
About it.
Okay, remember the last debate I had, Toxic, with you that I lost before it even started?
Yeah, because you were just having an emotional breakdown. That wasn't a debate.
Well, fuck you. How about that?
So Heretic, let me get this straight, right? So if you got like let's say a chronic infection or something, you won't take any antiviral medication? Not.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But how about this? So me and my buddy Brent, my best friend, fuck, I miss him. We got the same lung infection at the same time. We both went to get the same antibiotics. He took them. I didn't. The doctor told us the same thing. He said the antibiotics were going to cause us to have diarrhea at the end because it's just defeating the infection. Both of us defeated the infection at the same time and both got diarrhea, except I didn't take the antibiotics. So that's when I started questioning this weird shit that might be going on, bro. Like, I was like, wait, what? And like, ever since then, like, I don't go to a doctor, and like, sometimes, like, if God abandons me and says, you know what, fuck you, and lets me get broken bones, then yeah, I'll go see a fucking doctor, bro.
I remember one time I was kind
You know what I'm saying? So they're clearly not looking for what he's in.
Are you talking about bringing those guys onto Clubhouse or?
No, I mean, he was suggesting that to modern day debates, and they were staring at him like he was speaking a different language. Like, why would we have those guys on? He's like, well, they have good arguments. He's like, yeah, but if we have a flat earther, we'll get like 1 million times the views. You know, we'll have Darth and a flat earther, and then we'll get like 1 million super chats or whatever. Those guys, who knows who they are? You know, I mean, like literally, they didn't know what he was talking about. It's like, well, they're philosophers, but MDD has no interest in that stuff. They just want garbage. Sorry.
Hey, Pa, did you hear what Toxic and Heretic said a few minutes ago?
Yeah, Worm and I fled the room. I don't know if Worm fled the room. I fled the room because.
Yeah. No. What
was he saying?
Did you say something specific?
No, so Jason asked them if they don't go by the doctor. So Toxic and Heretic said, hell no. So I asked, so if you have like some kind of viral infection or something, would you not go by that? Would you not take like antibiotics or antiviral medication? And they was like, hell no. It's like, what the fuck?
Those trolls.
So if they had herpes, right? They won't take it, right?
They're just lying. They would take medication.
I mean, Heretic might self-medicate. Like, that's within the realm of possibility.
Toxic may take was pretty sincere, I don't know.
No, I totally believe Heretic, but Toxic, nah. I totally believe Heretic. For some reason, I believe him.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You can imagine him with, like, strapped out and just, smoking a big old fatty and feeling better. You could totally see that. Toxic, I don't know. That guy is just... Ugh.
Then Matt Adams jumped in, right, and said, yes, for a long time I always suspected that those medications are not really medications. Oh my God. Not Adams.
I mean, I don't know why you asked that question, Chris. Like, first of all, I mean, there's just so much wrong with asking that question to those people. I mean, they don't even know where to start.
I asked that because earlier today, Matt Adams said, and I quote, I have spoken to so much atheists, right, about evolution. I know so much about biology that I can corner them on anything and answer any question. So I posed a simple but effective question.
Premise 1. Evolution suggests survival of the fittest. Premise 2. Heretic is still alive. Conclusion. Evolution is false.
I concur. Heretic is walking evidence. Heretic is walking evidence of there's no such thing as evolution.
I'm not sure he is a eukaryote. He may be, what's the other one? Prokaryote?
Prokaryote, singular. Without a membrane.
Ew, squishy. Of course, we did get to hear a new offensive, racist accent from Toxic, so I guess there's that. I guess that's a plus.
Oh yeah, that was entertaining.
Do you guys actually want that paper? Oh, I'm reading it now, but I'm working through it. I'm gonna have to take small bites of this stuff. I just got finished with the definitions again.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, I meant the one I posted in chat earlier about anesthesia.
Oh, no, I'll look for it.
I have the PDF because I think, people were saying it's behind the paywall, but.
Yeah, can you shoot it to me?
Yeah, I don't know how the hell
If it's a hassle, don't worry about it. Yeah, I can
I can send it on Discord. Sean, I have you on Discord, right? I'll send it to you on.
Your no name. You there?
Sorry, I was fixing supper. I'm listening with half an ear. What's up?
No, maybe somebody toxic tried to imitate me with my accent, and he sounded worse than you. So you're off the hook, right?
Good to know. I was sweating it.
It was like a cross between Bob Marley and Chipmunk. It's awful.
Yeah, to me. And so I didn't, it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of strange. And
no, bro, you don't have high blood pressure. You're annoyed easily by fucking dumb fucks. That's what it is. You don't have high blood pressure.
Well, the other thing is too that there's also something called white coat syndrome, where people tend to have higher blood pressure when they go to the doctor anyway because they're nervous. Well, when I went to this other doctor, he was Indian doctor who'd been practicing a lot longer. When he took my blood pressure, and it measured, about the same as the other one, he didn't even say anything about it.
Yes, and Matt,
you need to get that down.
Matt, you should have challenged. Hold on one second, real quick. Matt, you should have challenged that one doctor to a debate. That's what you should have done. Take him to task.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, this was a female, yeah.
Oh, fuck that. Abort, get out of there.
You can also have it too low, too. It can also be too low.
Right, yeah. Because I knew someone who had a brother who said he had blood pressure, and they were trying to get it down to a certain point.
phobia level, it's really just a broad philosophical categories regarding things exist, how do you know, and should we, or if using athletes there, should we tell the truth about what you're putting in knowledge and what exists? So that's just an ethical requirement there. Of course, you could dive into other moral absolutes and like that, but here it's just telling the truth, right? So.
Yeah, so it sounds like to me that you're convinced.
It's been 3 weeks since Dennis left.
Hello, I'm gonna read now.
Oh, please. Again, no offense, we're friends, but I'm disgusted by Johnny Hawes. First of all, he's not as smart as he thinks he is. He has been critical of biblical presuppositionalism, and those people who are almost always uneducated on presuppositionalism. Okay.
I think I just like the book because it explains about Christianity.
That's perfectly fine. I'm gonna leave. Okay.
It explains.
But why don't you mod me so if I come back, if any trolls on stage, they won't be able to join.
I have to be the only mod because I'm the reader, and I'm pissed off when people come in here and freak out.
Well, what if they want to have a conversation about it?
No, I'm just going to read and split.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but this book, I know you haven't read it, it explains about just what you do about atheists.
No, Johnny does not. Johnny may be correct on that, but Johnny doesn't take a biblical presuppositional view. He's critical of biblical presuppositionalism.
I don't even know what that is myself, so I'm
biblical presuppositionalism is that we defend the existence of God and refute atheism by virtue of God's revelatory actions. Okay? And Johnny rejects that because he's critical of biblical presuppositionalism.
I don't know where I stand on that myself. I might have to...
Let me explain to you briefly, and I'll get out of here.
Okay, and then I'm going to start the reading.
Then I'll split, and you can do your thing, okay? So it's really very simple. Can we invoke and defend the existence of God if God did not decide to disclose himself?
I don't know. No.
The answer is no.
Right.
We couldn't even invoke that God is, let alone defend it. Okay? When someone invokes it, well, what God? What are you talking about? Okay? So, I mean, you could say there's a giant marshmallow on the moon. Okay, yeah, so you said it. But in what way is that accounted for? So, unless God takes the initiative to, in his creation, and purposes that the creation reveals him in an undeniable way, then we cannot account for God.
Right, well, today I'm reading, and we're like halfway done with the book.
Okay. I'll read, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to read the book. Seeing through the forest, reading the book. Hi, George. You can come up, but this is a reading, as you know. Thank you for, oh boy. Thank you, Johnny. I don't know. Darth was just here. So.
Well, what did he have to say?
Well, that you don't know about precept, but I don't either, or something to that effect. I'm not smart on that. So, but everything's good. He respects it, and he's gonna let me read the book here and like whatever. Like, let's just bring some great people in. I'm excited.
Now, when you say he's going to let you read the book here, what does he mean by letting you read the book here?
I think those are the wrong words. I think I used the wrong terminology. He said, I'm going to respectfully leave so you can read the book.
Oh, I got you.
I said this is a read.
I got you.
Yeah, this book is not to discuss things, it's to read and talk about the book.
Well, if you try to get back in the room, Matt, when you come back later, I know you're working, but what I can try to do is, just sort of notify
Hand of God so much that in my mind, hi, everyone that leaves room for doubt was there in the beginning. What is truth? Evolution, physics, or cosmology, except through me. I'm still learning and seeking. We should ultimately oppose a moral critique of the Bible, calling
because, I knew it, but once I decided
Oh boy. I have a screenshot of you. There's just a little bit of a Karen. Yeah, I heard about that the other day. Since you're not a real adult, you're a phantom adult.
crazy.
running into a lot of snowflakes.
Wonderful. Something different. Are you just for that? But yeah, we're only dealing with that too. We're just dealing with the truth in any form of investigation. So how do you prove the truth to someone? You have to stand on the truth. We need to trust ourselves.
So make sure they double and triple down that you have proven their negation false. Yeah, both and proven the negation false. established, then that means that you have established your position.
Those are asserting their worldviews, and that's their presupposition for the intelligibility or something. So they're asserting they have intelligibility. They're saying the movie can cash out, because the movie doesn't cash out. Therefore, there's a contradiction. They're asserting X, the movie does not X. Therefore, Q negated negation Q.
Tested and self-authenticating, and God's revelation is a package. You don't have that luxury. That's called a philosophical body double. Right? Now, what you need to do is this. Okay. If you look at the tree outside, focus on what I'm saying to you. Is it your position that trees do nothing burger one after another?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Where's the beat?
You know, I had a suggestion. Do you know how when someone will ask you to prove God or give you an argument for God or something like this, and sometimes you'll use the line of reasoning where you'll say, well, why should I do that? And the point you're getting to with that is that they reject God. Right?
God's already proven himself. They just reject it.
The point you're trying to get to is that question presupposes that they don't accept it already, right? That they're not accepting and by virtue of that not denying it. But sometimes people get confused when you say, why should I do that? You should say, why should I give you an argument for something that you already accept? Right? And that will force them to say, oh, I don't accept it. Right? I think that gets to the point more cleanly, right?
Yeah, you see, they're so accustomed and habituated to just walk, that they confuse walk for substantive interchange. I mean, how many times do I ask people whether something is or is not? I'll say, is it A or not A? And I get a response, well, it could be. It seems to be. I didn't ask you if it seems to be. I didn't ask you if it could be or maybe. I want to know, is it A or not A? In your view. Okay? So then, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are certain times where it's appropriate to say, well, it could be. But, many of these atheist defenders use it as a strategic of evasion. And for those of you who are familiar with the philosopher George W. Bush, a strategery is a stratagem to evade and deceive.
Yeah, that guy was, you could tell that guy was like a baby steps guy. You gotta just slap him across the face. I know. Arbitrarily asserting that nothing's evidence for God.
Yeah. Well, it can't be evidence for God because God is inconsistent with reality. Oh, so God's inconsistent with everything? Yeah, well, I do get that. One minute he says he doesn't know it's ultimate, the next minute he appeals to the laws of nature. 1 minute I ask him, do trees, are they indicative directly or indirectly of anything extraneous to the tree? And he said no. And then later on he said, well, yeah, they indicate laws of nature. Where do they grow these people?
Well, wherever they grow them, I'm sure there's another one in that room that wants to come up. Maybe he can tell us where they grow them.
Well, the problem is we need to work hard on doing some crowdfunding so we can fund a testicular transplant for atheists, because all we seem to get are these little man-child atheists who just like to come in and troll, rather than adult atheists. Alan, come on up.
I mean, look, I'm not an atheist, but you seem to sound like an, I believe it's an INTJ, which, yeah, well, that's part of the Myers-Briggs. So, as an INFJ,
so you're into psychobabble?
Well, maybe it is psychobabble. The fact remains. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation here. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Let's have a conversation. Okay. Now. All right. Here's the conversation. I'm trying to help you understand what's going on. Stop. And already you're attacking me. I don't give a fuck. Stop. No, I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna skip me. I don't give a fuck. You're an idiot. I'm here to help you, dumb fuck. Okay. He wants to go on a psychoanalysis rant, and then when you interrupt him and say, let's talk, he says, you're attacking me. He starts talking about the Myers-Briggs temperament analysis, which has its root in Jungian psychoanalysis. And Jungian psychoanalysis has its root deeply in the occult. Carl Jung had a spirit entity that would come to him and teach him named Philemon. Okay? But, a lot of people who are into psychobabble, they think that they're really into, psychology, psychotherapy, and they think that, certain psychological testing is scientific, okay? Well, you could tell he was wanting to vent his spleen at you and tell you that there's something wrong with you, right? He wasn't going to agree with you. I mean, I'm more than willing to bring him up again if he wants to act like a gentleman, but I think he made it clear. Did he leave? I moved him back to the audience. I didn't kiss him.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak there. We asked if he comes back up that we check on his language.
I think he left, but I looked at his profile briefly, and I looked, he said he was a trans and a vegan, and wow, that's 2 strikes against him. He walks around in a dress chewing on celery. I tell you, we need a lot of weirdos on the internet, don't we? Yeah, it's funny. He said you were attacking him. The whole point of him coming up here is he was launching an attack on you. The reason why I kept on saying stop is not because I wanted to prevent him from criticizing me. I wanted him to slow it down. Let's have an interaction here. Okay, since he's going to cite that I am somehow to be characterized by some taxonomy of the Myers-Briggs temperament analysis. I want to say, does he consider that science? Okay. Does he consider it medicine? Okay. People who, I'm all for personal criticism and insults if it's deserved. But if you're going to sit there and just say, well, you fit into this or that category from some psychobabble personality inventory that came from an occultist, although may be popular in the world of psychology and psychotherapy, let's get to the topic of things here instead of doing a psychoanalysis on that. Okay? I didn't bring you up here to do a psychoanalysis. Maybe next time somebody starts doing that, I should just go, Dad? Is that you, Dad? Is that you, Mom? Right? Because if Mommy and Daddy, want to do a psychoanalysis on me, well, they know me pretty well since the time they were changing my diapers, So they get a little more leeway in doing the psychoanalysis of me. But these people, these strange, weirdo, vegan transvestites on the internet, I'm not going to give them much slack when they want to do a psychoanalysis on me. And there are already people who probably dislike you. You think he agreed with you on anything? You think I take issue with that, and that's, you're on thin ice. I can't imagine that anyone would dislike me. Yeah, I've been trying to bring it to you slowly for years, Darth. Well, I just think you're being rude, Joanne, you hear this abuse? He's trying to suggest that there's some people on Clubhouse that don't like me. What are you talking about? No, I'm not trying to suggest. I'm just trying to say that there could be an argument made that some people think that some people don't like you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, but these people want to do a psychoanalysis on me. They claim I'm a narcissist, but I just think I'm a harmless fuzzball. I just don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that there would be somebody who would dislike me for what I say and what I stand for.
It's amazing how their psychoanalysis comports with their own opinions about you, right? How many times has someone disliked you, done a psychoanalysis, and then the conclusion is, oh, everything's cool, right?
Yeah. Okay, so if anyone wants to come up and explain to me why atheists and even some Christians are not snowflakes, come on up. By the way, the reason why I included some Christians is because it's recently I've been asking Christians to explain to me why you believe God, and I started asking them the same sort of questions that I asked atheists, why do you believe there's no God, and I get the same snowflake responses. You know? So if anyone would like to come up, feel free to come up, friend or foe alike, just conduct yourself like an adult. If you want to criticize me, if you want to take me out to the woodshed and tell me how wrong I am, just do it, in a methodical way, do it in an adult manner, just don't, do this machine gun, attacking. Okay, let's have some interaction here.
How do you tell if people have their hand raised?
It will show up in the lower right-hand corner of their icon.
Oh, okay.
Usually when non-atheists they raise their hand, you'll see the 5 fingers. But when the atheists raise their hand, the middle finger will be pointing up toward the sky.
I see. They're giving you the California hat.
Well, that's just. I think that's something to do with Clubhouse's the coding. Like why they would give a different icon to want to speak to atheists, giving the middle finger rather than non-atheists who just raise it, just have the 5 fingers pointing up. I don't understand that. Okay, so I guess what we're going to have to do is maybe we can do some crowdfunding, for testicular transplants for atheists because, most of them are suffering from snowflake disorder. Either that, maybe it's PTSD. Is there a problem, Nick? Do you need some tissues? Are you suffering from hay fever there? Nick? Is everything okay? I keep on seeing an icon of you crying. I hope everything all is well with you, Okay, then, is everything okay? You keep on crying, man.
I would be, yeah, but I'm about to start getting ready for work, so keep me
okay. Alright. I guess you were crying, and I don't want you to be upset. See, but when you push that button to speak, we got 5 fingers pointed up toward the sky, and not a middle finger, like we usually get with the atheists.
Hey, what is Walter?
I don't know, he was in here before. Why? Yeah, I should look at the text more. I usually don't look at it.
Zavala continues to have a really good outing for Louisville, getting back-to-back strikeouts, striking out guys with Vancouver.
Let's see, Clark Kent. Is Clark still in here? No, he's not. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to mute my mic for a minute. I won't be looking at my screen, so if you have anybody raise their hand, let me know. And Matt is a mod, Pat is a mod, Nick, I'll make you a mod. Let's see. So, Joanne, what are you? Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Okay, that's nice, good.
Reformed.
Okay, I won't hold that against you.
just teasing it.
Lucy has something to do with Matt Sleep, right, John?
Yes, I volunteer for corn.
Oh, you're one of those.
I lead the prayer team.
You're one of them. I'm just kidding. Let's see. Yeah, you know, when you, like, when I say you, I say me, you know, when I try to dialogue with the atheists, I try to go step by step with them, but they're just uncooperative. They just want to sit there and so let's slow down. Let's have an interaction here. You know, pretend you're on a blind date, you know?
My very simple opinion of that is you can't make sense out of nonsense.
Well, their position is nonsense, period. And it's easy to demonstrate it. And it's nonsense on their own criteria. And you see, they don't care because they would rather adopt a position of nonsense that they dress up in a Halloween costume, you know, like some transvestite or transgender, weirdo, and pretend that their position is substantive when it's not. You know, as humiliating as it is, you know, being a transvestite in this modern world, you know, because it's sure hard to get clothes to fit, you know, and get decent wings. At least you have many career opportunities in Joe Biden administration, you know. Isn't it amazing how when some of these atheists come up, they're just so uncooperative? You know, I mean, I really do welcome disagreement, but you know, let's have a cooperative adult interaction and disagreement here. You know, it's like, you know, every time I ruminate on interacting with atheists, I have these flashbacks of listening to catty 14-year-old girls bickering at the junior high school cafeteria table. But that last guy that I booted, he was precious, wasn't he? Absolutely precious. The trans vegan, the guy walking around in a dress chopping on celery. Not that I knock celery, I happen to like celery. But not the dark celery, I like the light celery. Yeah. The dark celery is good, like for, you know, cooking and stuff, but the light celery is really good. Well, we got a whole audience full of people and nobody wants to come up. What a shame. What a shame.
Mr. Bill would come, but he's at work.
Well, Reed says he's at work. But Reed, when you have come up on stage, you're usually drunk. You know, so. Well, contrary to atheists and their slanderous and defamatory rumors, you don't know what I do or what my status is, clown. Right? You think that you hear rumors about me? Right? how would you know how substantive they are and what I actually do? Do you know what I do? No, you don't. I've been online for years, my friend. It doesn't prohibit me from doing what I do. But notice your foul mouth there, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Once in a while, I say something that, a curse word, and I shouldn't do it. But I do it out of, when my patience runs out with people being scumbags, okay? But you're just gratuitously talking nasty. Hey, Concrete, if you lie again in the text, I'm going to kick you. You've never been kicked because you merely disagree with me. You have a long history of trolling both Christians and atheists on Discord. You have a long history. You do it also on Clubhouse. If you lie again and you say that you get kicked to remove just because I don't agree with you, that's a lie, and I will not tolerate lying. Okay, alright, you're gone. Okay, I told you to stop the line. Goodbye. There we have another mentally twisted person on the internet coming on Clubhouse and Discord. Concrete plus another twisted one. Long history of trolling on Discord. This is the thing. These people lie with abandon. There's no consequences. Why not lie? Dan, I'm going to make you a mod, okay? I am going to take a break, but I'll be back on later. In a short time. So, yes.
Before you go,
yes.
I was just reading about the James Webb
Space Telescope.
Yes, that you told me about.
Yes.
So they're saying that there's 12 major discoveries and then more to come.
Oh, yes.
But do you think that what they're seeing now, they're seeing 150 million light years further? Can you imagine?
Well, so they say. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that's the model or the theory. But you see, what they claim they're observing is incompatible with their standard model. Okay.
Do you think this telescope can show Big Bang information to either debunk or anything that?
No, because there never was a Big Bang. Okay.
I think the video I posted at the top yesterday, Joanne, he goes through a lot of the findings, and he shows how it disproves Big Bang cosmology.
Look, the Big Bang cosmology is an attempt to postulate an alternative explanation to creationism and the biblical account of creation, all in the name of science. Many people think that the Big Bang is a discovery. They have heard it so many times, they have heard it spoken of, that it's so glorious that they think it's a discovery. It's not a discovery. It is a thought experiment. It is a speculative conjecture primarily due to adopting certain ideas of materialism. Even certain theists have jumped on the bandwagon. Okay? And these are what we would call syncretists, like William Lane Craig and others, or is it Craig? William. So, adopting the Big Bang, although it pretends to be science, is just simply a rebellious attempt of man not to acknowledge God as creator. Right? So, the idea was that when they can see vastly farther away than light traveling at the, and see, that's another thing. We don't know what the speed of light is in deep space, okay? We know what the speed of light is here. And they're assuming that it's a constant in all coordinates in time and space. That's not necessarily true. So these distant galaxies that they're seeing, that they, according to Big Bang cosmology, these very distant galaxies that are now seen through the James Webb Space Telescope are too complex in their formation in the sense that they would be inconsistent. They should be less, they should have less complex formation than the galaxies and the solar systems that we see with traditional telescopes and the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay. And so this is blindsided astronomers. But do you think it's going to slap them upside the head with it and go, wow, I guess God did create the universe now? One wants to come up, raise your hand, go ahead, Nick.
That's what Jason Lyle points out. I posted a link at the top. He goes through the findings of the telescope, and he predicted what articles would say after they found these things. And he's like, oh, I guess, this is what happens here. Like, they explain it just in a different way. Now, they don't deny. They just say, oh, I guess it happens a little faster than we thought, and this does this. And they never just say we were wrong.
Did you know that he actually got that prediction from his wife? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, his wife is Claire. Do you know his wife, Claire?
I haven't heard him. Claire. Okay. I guess.
Yeah, it's people are, they're so gullible. Look, I'm not a conspiratorialist. But, you really want to think about things, right? Okay? Just because, we have an extremely widespread popular model of cosmogony, right? It doesn't make it true, right? Because within human history, it was a blink of an eye in terms of human history that they were telling us that the universe was a steady state, that it's always existed. Okay? And then a blink of an eye ago, they changed their mind in terms of human history. All right, I will be back.
Yeah, Joanna, that guy, Jason Long, or you on the phone now. Look at Jason Long guy, he's good on young earth creation. He's a scientist and Christian apologist, he's pretty good. Joanne, how's the day treating you? Very well. How about you? Not too bad. I've wandered in with a question. Somebody just asked me something along the lines of, how does the James Webb Telescope disprove the Big Bang? And glancing at this room, I see that we're sharing an article. Do either of you, well, first off, do you care about that topic? That's what happens when you pick up your phone when you're in Clubhouse and you bump the screen with your thumb. I don't know if you heard my question. Was it, do you care about the James Webb thing? I'm just proving. I did not. Maybe Matt can answer you. Sorry, I think Matt stepped away, but I can't speak on that.
Now there's another guy who brought it up.
That's not one of your passions, okay. I just clicked, I thought, well, I'll read the thing, I can't read it, this is a YouTube link. Yeah, well, I know what's a YouTube video about it. I'm going to guess up front, it's like a few years ago, when they found grass in the stomach or in the poops, fossilized poops of I think it was one of the ceratops, like Triceratops or something. And biologists knew that grass is very, very old. It's at least 60 million years old, but they hadn't found signs of it being before the asteroid collision thing that wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. But now they do have evidence. They do find signs of grasses in one of these, Triceratops-looking things. I don't remember which species it is. And there were a lot of creationists running around going, they've disproven evolution. And you just go, what? How exactly? And that's kind of where I feel with how does the James Webb Telescope disprove Big Bang Theory? I'm expecting it's going to be something like that. That is to say, there's a result that's interesting and surprising. And then there's a bunch of anti-science people running around saying, well, if the scientists are surprised by this, that must be because they're wrong about everything. It's just, that's not how it works. Dwayne, do you think the Big Bang is a thing? No, I don't. I don't understand why would, so I'll take it you're a Christian. Yes. I don't understand what's, I get it, let me say this first. I get it, when it comes to, again, this is technically imprecise, but it's such a handy phrase. Man came from monkeys, right? And I know someone is going to point out, that's actually not the theory, you know what I mean, right? You're saying that you're amongst the great apes. And so I get it, I think there's a good theological reason, biblical reason, to very strongly to prefer not to believe man from monkeys type of evolution. I get that. But I don't understand, what's the problem with Big Bang Theory? Why we wouldn't accept the rapid expansion of the universe? Is it because of the age or what? I can only give you my opinion, is I think that God created everything. Sure. But then, why would we, once we're presented with some information about how that process had taken place, then why would we not want to believe that information? Well, like, for example, and I'm going to assume that you're a round earth person, right? If you're not, please stop me before I get too far into this. If you're a flat earther,
I'm not a
So the Bible tells us that, we live on the surface of this earth, and, there's a big bright star, a big bright sun that warms us, but it's not there all the time. It's only around roughly half a day. Depends where you live, what season it is, but it's up there a goodly part of the day, and then it's gone for a while. And the Bible tells us that it was God who set that in motion. That it was God who created this world and positioned the sun, in its movement across our skies. For us, this is part of His plan for us. And when you actually study how the Earth, and when you actually study how the stars kind of roll around the Earth, and then things like Mars doesn't fit the pattern, Jupiter doesn't fit the pattern. The whole thing makes a lot more sense if you look at it like that the sun is in the middle, and we're on something that's moving around the sun. And there's a whole bunch of other things that are moving around the sun. Well, then you go, okay, well then we just learned something. We know that God created the earth, and God created the sun, and God created the moon, and these other planets. And we learned something about it. We learned that the sun is out there, and we're whipping around it. We're walking 93 million miles away from it. That's how God set it up. We've learned something about what God did. But is that not how you look at the sun being the center of the solar system? Is that not what you think about it?
Do you go by hog tie?
Certainly, yeah, you're welcome to call me hog tie, yeah.
I really appreciate your respect, your clean language, but I'm not a debater, and I really don't have, I don't have answers for you.
Okay, that's fine. No, I'm not a debater either. I've actually literally never had a debate on the internet. I get people coming up and challenging to debates, or just deciding that you're now in a debate with them, but I couldn't be bothered. I mean, if people have a question, I'll answer a question. But I do enjoy, like your person of faith. I do enjoy learning things about people's faith. There's some of the central questions that I don't feel compelled to ask because I've heard those answers already. You're welcome to the topic. What was the topic? I joined this lobby kind of late. We were kind of topic free. When I had come in the room, the microphones were muted, and I just asked, because somebody in another room had just asked me about the James Webb Telescope. And when I popped in here, I noticed that there's that YouTube video link. So Joanne and I were just sort of talking loosely and in general about how Christians respond to information when scientists say, oh, this happened or that happened. But to be honest with you, Joanne and I were just kind of chit-chat. So if you have a topic, you're not interrupting a topic.
Okay. Well, no, I didn't really have a topic. It just sounded interesting what you guys were talking about here. Are you an atheist all the time? Agnostic? What? Yeah, I'm a believer. Okay. All right. Well, about like space and stuff, I don't think anyone here was like a flat Earth or anything. Actually, I haven't met any flat Earthers on here yet. But yeah, that's an interesting topic. Yeah, how what maybe this could be an interesting topic. Aliens, right? That's a kind of a buzz thing right now. Like as a Christian, I don't believe that any life exists outside of this planet. At least not in the way that humans do. Like I don't think we're gonna find some planet. I know that there's habitable planets. I actually just did an astronomy course. It was really interesting. There's a lot of habitable planets out there, but we're never going to find like deer, or alien deer, whatever you want to call it. What do you think about that? Civilization, sure. Yeah, a lot of habitable planets. You know that for a fact. Well, I'm just granting atmosphere. Like breathable oxygen and things like that. I don't know what their variables are for life, but just granting that there are habitable planets out there. Star Trek? Hollywood? No, for one of my research projects, I went through some of these planets and stuff like that are out there, and I don't know what the figure was for how many habitable planets they said that there are. How can they get that information without? I don't know. I mean, we haven't even tipped outside our solar system. Never mind, and they're just like, oh, there's these many planets that could, life could sustain. I don't get it. I understand if you found it, right? Okay, cool. But just like, oh, this is happening, and that's happening, and this is going on, and okay, it shows the proof. Maybe you don't believe in God, but it shows enough proof to believe that there's other things going out there without showing us anything. Like, that's the problem with scientists. It's like, the monitor. That was a clip. Well, but it's true. You talk about scientists. You talk about how we should be scientists. Well, a lot of scientists are atheists and just want to disprove God, because really, science, at the end of the day, I'm only going to live 100 years. So what do I care if there's a Big Bang Theory or not? I'll be over here on this planet for telling you what's going on 14 billion years ago. Were you with that Bang Theory on the red? I don't feel in the room when I was asking you that question, as I am kind of curious to say, like, why would Christians have, because I understand why Christians would not want to believe in the sort of man from monkeys type of theory of biology. But I was asking the question, why would you not want to accept expansion of the universe? How is that theologically unsettled? That particular thing, I don't see as theological. I think that there's aliens is a bigger issue, alternate life forms, things like that. But the expanding universe, I don't know how that would be theologically a problem. Maybe someone else can. So the Lord turns out to heaven, that may have not to start with. Right. I mean, because aliens are the bigger problem, because when we talk, I assume there was some Christian theology that opens a whole bit of a whole bunch of can of worms there. Not just is mankind special, but Christ sacrifice was a propitiatory dilemma. They're the alien biblically. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but like, they're not physical entities, right? But yeah, for sure. So hard to build life on other planets. We may even inhabit other planets in the future. I think Elon Musk said that his goal was to get, not to live on Mars, but to put a man on Mars, like 2025 or something like that. I don't know how realistic that is, but that's what he said. Even Bill Maher, it's like the moon took that. Even Bill Maher is an atheist. Okay, which is saying, why are they spending billions of dollars to go to Mars instead of spending billions of dollars to fix our planet? That's you see his logic. It's like, and this is what some science does. It's like you spend billions and billions of dollars. Even NASA itself, which spends billions and billions of dollars. And then when they're expecting to find on Mars. But yeah, our planet means nothing, and the people that started on it. Who cares? That's what are you expecting to find on Mars? Exactly. You're going to find on Mars. It's because he wants his name put in history. That's all he wants. He wants to be put in the history books, because he knows the only way, an atheist only knows the only way to survive forever is in a history book or until the planet blows up. We're nothing. Most of us are nothing. We're a speck of dust. In most of the world, 99% of people in 100 years won't even know who we were. So a lot of these guys, they know that. So they want to be put in history books. They want to be put in computers where they can live forever. But they won't live forever, because even though they're in the history books, they're still dead. I personally, being immortal, when I was an atheist, being immortal that sounds like hell to me. Like before, as an atheist, I was like, I want to be annihilated. I don't want, some eternal, being in a computer or something. That sounds horrible.
Eternal bliss. You don't want that, man. Let's suffer like champs for 100 years, because most of us do suffer, and then boom, it's over, and it's pointless for nothing. That's the easiest moral ground.
I'm sorry, Hogtie, you unmuted your mic. I think you were about to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off. What's the point? Oh? No, I muted at one point to comment that I was misrepresenting the purpose of the mission to Mars. I don't know. Walter's got it covered. You don't even need any non-believers. Walter's a mind reader. There's no point to Mars. Look again. That's what we're doing. Wait, so, Hogtie, go ahead. Because I don't know much about the Mars mission there. That's the point. About whether even No, I think. Honestly, if resources were really tight and we had to choose between doing, socially responsible things, taking care of ourselves here on our own planet, like if the choice were helping to address pollution or send robots to the surface of Mars, I'd be like, what? Why are we even debating this? Let's clean up our house before we decide to go out and visit. But that very much misrepresents what the choice is. Right? The sort of initial view is the more we understand about our world, or the whole physical world, the better off we can be. Now, again, I don't think we should prioritize Mars over helping the homeless. But that's not the choice. NASA isn't in a position of saying, well, should we send robots to Mars or should we help the homeless? I think the American people are very much in that decision-making position, and the American people have spoken. And it is, they're homeless, right? Like, do you think that there could be any like practical application from a space mission to Mars? Like, what could, I guess, come out of that? Well, there's two general categories. One of them is, because it's a significant technical problem, an engineering problem, to be able to do these things like put robots on, it really spurs forward technology. So we actually get, first world benefits from improving our technology. Now, before I get to the second one, let me say I think the first one's kind of silly, because you think, well, surely there's some other problems we could solve before we put our minds to the whole, let's, going back to the 60s, let's put men on the moon, and now we're putting robots on Mars. Like, surely there's some other problems we could solve that would also help us harvest that type of technology, or whatever. That's one of the reasons. But the other one is just actually, the more exploration we do, whether it's the deep sea, or the surface of the moon, or the surface of Mars, the better we understand our physical world, the more we can go out there and actually collect real evidence, the better we understand the truth about, biology and, the history of our own solar system. So we're going to So you both started and finished at the same time. I didn't know they're going to space already solved that. You said they're Stardust. Did you already answer that? Well, no. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, but of course, but no, he didn't. If he said it, he was definitely referring to something Carl Sagan had said around the time that Neil deGrasse Tyson was born. Like, can I ask something about God? Beautiful Stardust. Because if God is what grounds objective moral facts, then they'd be stance independent, because they'd be outside of our stances as humans, like our desires. And so if they're stance independent, then they'd have to be outside of God's stances as well. Because then otherwise you wouldn't have stance independent moral facts. They're not non-partial. I can't hear you mumbling. They're not a creature. They're not a creature? Yeah, well, if they're stance independent, then that just, it follows analytically that means that they're outside of all stances.
So you're just really checking that we want to be impersonal absolutes. And where? The ether?
Did you say impartial? Dude, you're impersonal.
Impersonal.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm talking about stance independent reasons for action.
Stance independent. Non-personal, you mean?
No, you
sound like a...
Yeah, it's very technical. Well, no, it's very technical because I'm saying that they're categorical if they're stance independent. So they're outside of
Okay, so it's still impersonal.
It's still impersonal? I don't know what you mean by impersonal. I don't know the concept you're referring to when you mean
agent independent is what you're saying.
Yeah, okay. So
that's weird. Yeah, let's simplify it. No,
what's the difference? Wait, how is that more simple?
Dependent.
Wait, how is it more simple saying stance independent and agent independent? How is agent independent more simple than
creator agent and is creator agent dependent?
Yeah, well, they wouldn't be just agent dependent, or independent rather. They'd be stance independent because they'd be outside of all stances. That's a predicate concept of what you're No, there's nothing to do with
the forms of them. What do you want to do, actually? Where do they exist?
Look, I'm not making any claims about stance. I'm not saying that
where are they?
I'm not saying
that exist or what?
I'm saying if God grounds stance independent moral truth.
You'll hold the God against it.
Do you know what an internal critique is?
Stance. You don't even feel at it.
So I'm making an internal critique saying that.
No, you're not. You're giving your standard and then thrusting upon us, and then we have to internalize that. So nice actual critique.
Can you speak clearly?
The question is,
can you speak clearly? Is there something distorting your
I did.
No, you're mumbling.
Let's take a break for a second here.
Ian, do you not notice that this guy's mumbling, or is it just he's not speaking clearly?
You guys are both speaking a little bit fast. I'm trying to follow. Oh, okay. Okay, well, you want to do a rat-a-tat, so every time I do a rat-a-tat-tat with them, then they go, oh, you're speaking too fast. I go, then stop berating me when you come in with your 90 miles an hour. I was just trying to this is that's what was in there the other day, too, and walked out of the man. It was in Jordy Hawson, I'm pretty sure the same asshole. I didn't know that William Lane Craig was that shredded. I'll put over that douchebag. The answer, he wasn't paying. He heard what I was saying earlier, so he just, when he couldn't have an actual response, he went, oh, I just can't hear you now all of a sudden. Oh, really? I just said he was unmuting while I was talking, then he's not going to be able to hear me. It wasn't the independent of all agents. It's just purely abstract universals in our mind. Okay, so like a Platonic idea where they just kind of... Yeah, it's an abstract. Universal afterwards. Well, Bernardo, I mean, these things exist again, you keep invoking, but you say to be on space-time? You're a Platonist, dude. I don't even know, is Bernardo a... I don't know, he's not a Christian, right? He's a Christian. Oh, there he is. Alright, anyways, well, what were we talking about? Hogtie, one of my research papers is actually on the idea of space tourism, because that's something that's sort of been popping up in the literature as to whether in the future, if it somehow became economically viable, that with more efficient rockets and stuff like that, sending the common man to space, good or bad idea, in your opinion? I think it's an absolutely terrible idea. And to clarify what I mean by that, I think it's really cool, and I would love to do it. But the reality of it is, there's no magic wand to make that happen. And if it was something affordable, like people can own their own ultralight airplanes now, or anybody can go down. If you have a pilot friend, you can go flying around. These things are affordable. But the amount of economic ammunition you need to muster to make like space tourism, it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars or up in the trillions of dollars. And why would we do this? Like that, in my mind, really rubs me the wrong way. We're not. I mean, even the thing about putting robots on Mars, you got a good opportunity to stop and ask yourself, well, why aren't we doing things to improve life here? Well, no, sorry, it's always the same thing. It's to build better, bombs. That's what's going to end up happening. Like it always does. You just tech
And the tech is always because maybe you can find something that will be better than the next guy. That's all it is. It's always about that.
And then, this one has me the wrong way about it. I mean, it's funny, just yesterday, my kids and I watched the movie Tomorrowland. And there's a great line towards the end of the movie where he kind of talks about how humanity just treats itself so poorly. He says, you have simultaneous epidemics of obesity and starvation. Explain that to me. Right? And this is the problem I have with this. So remember, I'm a conservative, and I don't think everybody should get a handout. I think that you know, people should, there's always going to be rich people and poor people. And I think people who work hard deserve more money and get to do better vacations and get to have fancier houses. Right? And I think people who innovate and come up with great ideas deserve to have a yacht or whatever. The thing I don't understand is that why do we have to have somebody who's worth $100 billion while there are so many people who are starving in the same city where that person lives? So I'm a huge fan of progressive taxation. And the fact that we have these people that are so ultra wealthy that they can actually ponder, hey, do I want to go out to space? While there are people who can't muster enough money to get a sandwich. That's the thing that really rubs me the wrong way about space tourism.
But that's where the morality classes, man. Back in the day, you'd be having people teaching a lot morality. Now you go to school, you don't even know what morality is. You get out of school at 18, you don't even know where you're going or where you're coming from. And nobody wants to teach it, because who's the right person to be the moral person, to be the moral, what's the moral rules going to be? So everybody's slowly becoming lost.
I'm in the opposite camp, actually. I think a graduated income tax is a terrible idea. I'm in Canada, okay? I have clients that pay between 53 to 58% of their income in tax. I think the most fair is to tax people non-discriminately, a flat tax, say whatever it is, a percentage base. I don't think that a progressive tax, that's something that's sort of a, what do I want to call that, like a Marxian idea, understanding. I think that's where it was at least sort of began. I don't think it's a good idea to sort of discriminate against people for how much money they make. And I think that I think it stifles enterprise in the end. I don't think it's good for economic growth.
Well, let me ask you one comment on the morality aspect. When it comes to this person is very wealthy in the city, and
Theo, you're going in and out, man.
Many people, other people.
Yeah, you're in the matrix.
Is it better now?
Well, maybe you can reset your connection to it. In the meantime, I want to address Ian's point real quick about the progressive taxation. And your reference to the Canadian dedication to progressive taxation would be a good one, except I think the Canadians really kind of screwed it up. First off, the biggest problem with a straight-up flat tax is what do you do with the person who earns $9,000 or $10,000 per year? Why are we taking any money from that person at all? I don't know exactly what is the basic personal exemption. It doesn't matter what it is exactly. It's probably in the order of $12,000 or $13,000 now. Basically, Canadians tell impoverished Canadians, if you're earning only $12,000 or $13,000 a year, don't worry about it. It's on us. The rest of us will cover it. You work hard so you can pay your basic bills, and we'll cover your health care. We don't expect you to pay income tax. That's fine. And then, of course, you're right. There are people who are, well, first of all, if you're paying 60% or 58%, whatever it was, of their total income, there is the higher tax bracket where that portion is taxed at a very high rate. The problem is that Canadian income tax actually isn't wholly progressive. It starts out at 0% for the first 12,000 or whatever, then it's 16% for whatever, and then it's whatever, and the next number is 20 and 23%. It goes up. But once you start earning over a few $1 million, then the tax rate drops off to where you're now paying, less than 10%. Now you're paying less than 1%. The ultra wealthy don't pay income tax, or to whatever extent they pay income tax. You can find some ultra wealthy person and say, I can know what I pay in tax. I pay something like $1,000 a year.
And I don't know, I'd have to look it up to say what it is, but that's not an unusual amount to pay across all the different taxes. But the ultra wealthy, that guy could say, oh, well, I had to pay $50,000 in tax this year. Well, yeah, but that represents 0.4% of your actual income. So when I say that I'm a fan of progressive taxation, I'm certainly not a fan of progressive taxation the way the Canadian government has it laid out, because it's not progressive. It's progressive only on poor. Canadian progressive taxation is progressive taxation only on poor and middle class people.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Progressive taxation is a fairly novel idea. I mean, in the United States, I'm not very familiar with your system. I assume it varies state to state, federalism and all that. But in Canada, slowly, I know a good amount of people. Of course, my personal experience, I know anecdotal experience doesn't mean very much, but when it comes to small business owners and things like that, the taxation is so much that more and more people are not even, opening up small businesses. They don't, because of the amount of tax that actually goes into it. I think that it's even a broader argument or discussion after, flat tax, graduated income tax, where, or, what the government has the authority to take tax for, like foreign aid, for example. Should governments do that? Should it be private? Whatnot. In Canada, it's tough here. It's tough.
I think the initial idea in Canada was good, but people, the way people are, they can't. It's impossible. I mean, greed always comes into the picture, and at one point, the things that supposedly were to help people start to collapse. And that's what's happening. I mean, one time, the tax system is to help people who don't have, get more, and so on and so forth. But slowly, people start to, take advantage of the system, because there's plenty of loopholes in Canada that you can take advantage of if you have money, right? You just said it. Yeah. And a lot of these guys who have money start taking advantage of the loopholes, and us, the middle class, start to get more poor and more poor because they keep on taking more money off of us, to help the people below us, but yet the rich people are always getting ahead more and more and more. They're getting all the money. So that's the way the system is working out. I'm with you there, Walter.
I was just gonna say when it's audible. Hopefully, I'm audible. But with regards to the morality aspect, it's like, okay, there's this wealthy person and there's people in the city who are poor. Ought he not kind of like be more charitable? It's like, yeah, he ought to be more charitable. But the solution is not to go and take money from the wealthy guy and then give it to wealthy politicians in hopes that the wealthy politicians would be more charitable than the wealthy guy. Because instead, all that you're doing is you're centralizing power and wealth in the politicians. In Canada, Trudeau went and helped fund Volkswagen and whatnot, so that's like more jobs or things like that. The government does all sorts of crazy stuff, like bank bailouts and different things like that with people's money. I don't think that you or I should look at the government as if they are angels interested in the best interests of the citizens. They're another organization, and there always needs to be checks and balances on every organization. So, to go and just shift money from a wealthy person to another wealthy person, but this other wealthy person has political power, I don't think that's a solution. The best thing is just to try to keep government as small and as limited as possible, because when government gets big, it goes tyrannical. And if there's no check on government, then everyone becomes a slave, essentially.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Again, it's the mindset of people I'm talking about, because, okay, there's cars out there with $400,000, homes with $3 million, millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, I'm not saying to take away anything, give away anything. I'm not saying not to do anything, but these people are growing up with an idea in their mind. Is the idea to help each other out? Or is the idea to like, hey, I'm just going to live for me and screw everybody else? And that's what I mean. It's like, you can't help the child who's growing up, going to school. Is he going to learn to help each other? Or is he going to learn to get a great job and like, just make it in life and, drive fast car, beautiful house and all that stuff? Is this the dream? Or is the dream, guys, we should all be working together, helping each other, and we should all be living good, comfortably? That doesn't happen. Why? I would prefer to be making my salary and know that the next guy behind me has got a great house, feeding his kids, and the next guy's got instead of that guy's got a house worth $4 million. But does he need it? Does he need it? I won't need it. I don't want it. I don't need that. I could just live my own life. My own house, feed my kids get a good education so they can help others, and so on and so forth. But who's teaching this? Nobody cares. And that's the problem today. Not a lot of people care anymore. They don't care about me. And hey, that's what you want. That's what you're going to get.
Well, that's where, how's everybody doing? Good. You guys hear me by any chance? Oh yeah. But that's where, because Jesus calls out to the sin. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be responsible and take care of the poor and take care of the underprivileged. But Jesus Christ said that the poor will always be amongst us. And part of the thing is every solution that we're trying to come up with, there will be the aspect, the proclivities of human beings of being greedy and selfish will still impact anything that we do. And like one of the things that actually messed up all societies was after the Great Depression, the solution that they came up with. And the solution is kind of like it's solving obesity with feeding the person, or trying to solve debt with creating debt. And it's because of something called the Keynesian economics theory. And unfortunately there was a competing theory, Austrian economics, that was more investment based, but Keynesian is more consumer based. And it doesn't matter which country you're in, that's what they teach us in economics. They train, my undergrad was in degree in economics, so they train us to actually, they train us based on the Keynesian type of economics. So you have all these leaders always trying to expand Hello? Am I still here? Yeah, so that's like, so we'll continue, and then the problem with the Keynesian economics is leaves and troughs. So it's like there's an expectation that there's going to be a trough sometime in the near future, which is just, it's crazy. It's madness, and every country goes by that. And the reason why I'm saying that is so pervasive that it ends up also impacting the tax system. So it doesn't matter where you are, the U.S., Canada, there are going to be some people who are going to find the loopholes to the tax system and take advantage of the tax system. We got way off topic. Sorry about that, we're in the world economics. Sorry about that, I just wanted to jump in with that. What's the topic, by the way? What's the topic, by the way? Initially, it was Big Bang. And, I forget, it was guided, I think it was, I'm trying to remember his name, I actually posted the article above Jason Lau. So it shows that Jason Lau made his predictions like at the James Webb Telescope, which shows the galaxies fully formed. It says back towards the supposed Big Bang. And yeah, they're fully formed. They were spread out. Oh, that is nice. Isn't the Pence article on top? I think so. I think that's the one. I remember talking about it. I remember Jason Lau talking about it. So
This isn't shared by Nick Smith. But actually, when I popped in the room, there's actually the two questions I had was one that was sort of like, while I understand why some Christians will have concerns, let me put it that way, about any sort of a man from monkeys theory, I can see how that goes afoul of Christian theology. But I was asking somebody to explain to me, what is wrong with believing in the expansion of the universe? Like, is there something wrong with Big Bang Theory? But actually, the first question I came in with was, what is it like? I just don't see how the James Webb Telescope actually, how it somehow disproves Big Bang Theory. That to me just seems really misinformed. But those are two different questions. I guess my two questions are, well, what is it about the James Webb observations, the telescope observations, that would mean that Big Bang Theory just isn't plausible? And second, why would you want the Big Bang Theory to not be true? Why would that be important to a Christian?
Well, I don't want it to be true. It's just there's the evidence on it. So he's saying that if it was in the direction of where the Big Bang was, it would still show stuff spread out. And the only further out we have it forming stuff or whatever. Not only do you have monkeys demand, you actually have matter demand without an intelligence. That's even worse here. So.
Well, that part I get. I'm just saying that.
Like you have like how you get the planets rotating in different directions of each other, like colliding and destroying each other.
I don't think those are unsolved problems at all. But also not what I'm asking. Are you talking about like the way the planets rotate? Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of models related to how orbits can be perturbed, and collisions. Collisions are very disruptive.
Leave a mark, wouldn't it?
Depends what collision you need for a
planet to rotate on opposite way. Supposedly from the Big Bang, it was rotating. I'm not
rotating either way. You're talking about things like Uranus, where the pole. Even Earth's got that.
Oh yeah, the moons around the planets themselves.
Yeah. And you get one good collision, especially in the formative years when there were collisions over plenty.
That are hard. Yeah. Happens in the mind, huh?
Okay. Anyway, I don't know what.
You can be anything other than imagination.
Well, no, that's not the case. But
okay. So scientists are imagination.
That's just what you're going to do.
I didn't say anything stronger than that, given so.
I'll go. Yeah, I got legitimate questions, and I'm sort of marginally curious about it. Like what is it? Why don't you say the more practical one? What is it about the observations that make the Big Bang Theory just, it's definitely off the table now? Or maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe that's not what people are saying.
No, like the ones that go through the phase the milestone. I haven't been in astronomy in quite a while. Or into astronomy in a while. Probably get back into it and study Jason Wild's material and stuff like that, but I just noticed he did that prediction and turned out to be true.
Well, like obviously, other than the mechanism by which the bang happens, right? Like we're assuming that a Christian's going to reject that. I don't even know what the current theory is, whether it was nothing or whether it was quarks or something, some primeval substance that exploded. I don't know. I think the main thing that takes the Big Bang off the table is the mechanism by which it happened, or by which it is claimed to have happened, I guess. Like random chance, something happened, right?
Something popped in there.
Because Hawkeye, is it nothing and then it exploded, or what is the current theory right now?
Well, that is things. So first I want to say the thing you just said. That view predates that isn't specifically about the James Webb Telescope. That concern you're raising now has been around for a very long time. And I get it. You're saying, well,
well, what starts it, or is there a mechanism behind this, right? So what I was asking about was sort of like, what did we learn new from the James Webb Telescope that would sort of contribute to that problem?
Can you describe what they found? Because I have YouTube blocked because I waste too much time on it. What is it? Like, what did they discover?
Yeah. The best I've heard, when I heard of this, I went and I did a search, and it's funny now. So I'm going to just do a little bit. I'll come back to it. But it's funny now how they really tightened up how searches work. Like I remember when flat Earth was a thing. If you Googled flat Earth, you get a bunch of articles about, oh, here's why the Earth's actually flat, and a bunch of articles saying, oh, here's why it's crazy to say the Earth is flat. Nowadays, if you do a search for flat Earth, all you find are debunking flat Earth. So honestly, man, when I looked into it this morning, I just did a search for James Webb Telescope debunks Big Bang. And all I got in response was, no, it doesn't debug the Big Bang. No, it's not the case that that James Webb debunks the Big Bang. But in any case, I'll tell you what the observation is that's problematic, and I think this is correct because I just heard Matt say the same sort of thing. So what it is, as you know, the James Webb Telescope is amazing because it can see further, fainter things in our expanding universe that even the Hubble telescope can't see. So we're now seeing objects that are more distant. And remember, more distant means further back in time. Because these things are so incredibly far away, the light has taken forever to get to us. And we're looking so far back in time, if we're really seeing objects at that distance, what we should see are very, very, very young galaxies, or even like proto-galaxies, so they haven't really formed into their shape. And from what I understand of what they're saying, and actually I see Matt Yester's back, so he might have a way of putting it in the words, but my understanding of what they're seeing is that when they look back, they would expect to see, let's say look far away, that's looking back in time, they'd expect to see very, very young galaxies, or just galaxies forming, but they're actually finding at what they believe to be that distance, fully formed galaxies. And that's not consistent with what they would predict based on the distance they're looking at because it's so far back in time.
And by you're describing like secular science, right? Not Jason Lyle.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know what Jason Lyle says about it. I was unaware, until I saw the link in the room, I was unaware that he's somebody who's sort of pontificating on the topic. I'm sort of reading what the secular / mainstream, pop media is saying about it. Right. Pop science media.
Well, that's interesting. I'll do some research into that. I would have done my research project on this had I known that this existed. I didn't know. But that's pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I believe in a young universe. I'm a young Earth kind of guy. But like, how does that strike you, Hawkeye? Because I'm going to assume you propound the 14.6 billion. Age of the universe and stuff like that. Like when that comes to you, is there reframing going on? What do you think about it?
I think at this early stage, I don't really know enough about it, but the sort of skim through. I mean, part of the problem I have is the pop science articles. I mean, they're handy in a way because you can just sort of do a Google search and then you can read 3 or 4 paragraphs and ignore the rest and get the gist of it. If you actually care about it, you should look further into it. I'm sort of at that in-between stage. So there's my grain of salt for what I'm about to say. But the way that people are talking about it, like, oh, it's so alarming that they found these fully formed galaxies, that just disproves the whole Big Bang thing. It's very, very reminiscent of, I want to say 2016, it was around then that they discovered grass, like not lawn grass, but I mean that clade of grasses, whatever they call it. They got a weird name with lots of vowels in it. But like that order, I don't know what level it is. The grasses, which would include wheat, for example. Grass hasn't been around forever, but there's been good evidence that grass has been around for a very long time, certainly more than 60 million years. But we've never found evidence. So remember, they're saying that the Yucatan impact, the asteroid that famously wiped out the dinosaurs, they say that happened 65 to 66 million years ago. And we've never found evidence of there being grass before that collision. But we know that grasses were present relatively soon afterwards. And then back in 2016, they discovered indications that there were grasses being digested by, I forget which species it was, one of the ceratopsians. If you saw it, it would look like a triceratops, one of those big, frill skull things. And that animal went extinct 65 to 66 million years ago. So where scientists used to say, well, we know, again, scientists, very specialized scientists who study grass as part of their career, how focused is that? They say, well, we know that grass has been around for at least 60 million years. And then now we find evidence that it was actually in the stomachs of these ceratopsians. So they say, oh, well, we have evidence that grass is actually older than 66 million years. Well, there were a bunch of creationists that just went nuts over this. And they concluded that because some scientists found grass in the digestive systems or in the poops of these ceratopsians, that disproves evolution completely. Like now it's not possible that man came from monkeys. They just go, huh? How does that disprove that? All it means is that scientists, when they were saying we know how old grasses are actually a bit older than they thought they were. But that's so incredible. If you're not like a grass specialist biologist, that finding is so incredibly yawn-worthy. But there were creationists all over it. And that, to me, this James Webb thing is like that. You're finding a surprising result in this brand new fancy telescope. And since scientists are reported being surprised by it, well, then therefore scientists are wrong about everything. That's
no other way around it. Yeah, I mean that. I guess those kind of logical leaps. I get how that would be. I guess interesting to to see, and I guess I would approve of doing that. But I mean, of course, I guess you know where I'd be coming from with this. I don't want to drift too much into the evolution topic because that'll probably take us off. I see that William Lane Craig has joined us once again. I don't know if that's the same gentleman that was here before on like a different account.
Actually not. And his is a real picture of William Lane Craig, photoshopped onto a bodybuilder. Mine is an entirely AI-generated version. So this is how well Craig's image is encoded into Stable Diffusion's default presets. But you recognize it, so that's pretty good.
Well, yeah, I don't agree with a lot of William Lane Craig's theology, but yeah, he's a pretty well-spoken man, and yeah, his philosophy is interesting.
He's older. Well, you're in Canada. Is he Andrew the Young Earther?
What do those things have to do?
Because it's rare.
Canada?
Right? I know one guy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason I was thinking like the weather or something, but you're just saying it's not the southern United States and you're younger.
Exactly. Yeah, no, yeah. I was 18. This is sort of pre-internet. I think Usenet was a thing around when I was kind of a late teenager into my early 20s. Maybe Usenet was a thing. Certainly internet chats was a thing, but bulletin board systems were a thing. So you didn't get these discussions like we're having now. And I remember the day that I was working with a guy, and he brought up the topic of evolution. And he asked me the question, well, if man came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? And I was floored by the question. I was just absolutely shocked when he asked the question because I'd never met like a creationist / anti-evolutionist in my life. And right now, I can say I know one person in my community who is like a creationist. I don't know how old he thinks the Earth is, but like it's actually one.
Well, the Earth, like the age of the Earth or the age of the universe, rather, is that one. I think is you'll find much more people here that don't subscribe to the current academia. I think that's mostly because we have a fairly large immigrant population, a lot from, say, Eastern Europe and whatnot, where there's still very, I guess, traditional values and stuff like that. So I think you'd actually be surprised. Even evolution, I mean, boy, a girl I was seeing before, because I was converted maybe about 3 years ago, so I was a very staunch, I would call myself a Darwinian evangelist at that time. And when I found out that this girl I was seeing she didn't believe in evolution, I legitimately
I almost scolded her, at that but she was Eastern European, so I think you'd be surprised, man. You talk to people. Well, I'm sure I've met more. And again, I was sort of maybe I shouldn't have focused that much on the age of the Earth, because that's not even really an interesting issue, because there are even people who are very strictly creationists. They believe in special and separate creation of man, who will find their way to believing that the Earth is actually 4.5 billion years old and the universe is 13.8 billion years old. It doesn't rub them the wrong way theologically. But they're not even in that much of a twist over it. They won't even argue it. But it's the, once you start saying, oh yeah, well, one of the things that's happened in that last 4.5 billion years is there was a group of great apes that highly specialized, and that's who we are. That's ground that they will not give up. And I'm sure I've met more than I think I've met, but even amongst religious people, that's a relatively rare view where I am. Yeah, well, I mean, the whole BioLogos crew, like the old Earth kind of apologetics ministries and stuff like that, I don't think that has to do with any kind of careful exegetical work of, say, of our scriptures or anything like that. I think it's mostly just a capitulation to culture so they don't get made fun of. I think it's mostly something like that. Like guys like Stephen Meyer, very smart, right? Very smart guys. The ID guys, the intelligent design fellows. I think they're very bright, quite brilliant men. But I think that, honestly, their theology is more fueled by fear of getting made fun of than anything else, I think, by current secular academia, maybe. There are theological problems. They just don't want to look at it, at least not closely. So, I don't know. I mean, can I ask you a question, honestly? So let's just talk about the evolution question just for a moment. I don't know if it's going to be possible for a moment, but so given the fact that there's so many species on Earth, there's so much variety and whatnot, why is it that we haven't seen, let's say, any giraffe, hippo, whatever, all of those, including everything, even to the mosquito, change from not, I'm not talking about a mutation of, say, like losing wings or, losing their sight or something like that. I mean a distinguishable, what do they call it? Like a change of kind, you know what I mean? Where it's no longer that species, really. Shouldn't we, I know it's a long process, but with so many species, why aren't we seeing, this happen, not regularly, but at least at all? Why would you expect that? Either as a Christian or I mean, he's an evolutionist, quote unquote. Why would you expect to do that? Well, the amount of variety that we have in environments and in species would lead me to think that at least, we'd see something observable in at least one of them. Okay. Well, actually, I have a better answer to the question. When you're saying, why don't we see like one kind turn into another kind? My answer, I'm not getting snarky when I say this is actually my answer. Because evolutionary theory is true. Evolutionary theory reflects reality. If evolution weren't true, and some other truth existed, then it might be possible for one kind to turn into another kind. But for good or bad, I mean, it's almost like you're asking the question, well, why don't rocks just fly up into the air? Well, because of gravity. Well, I'm not saying, that's why I tried to phrase my question carefully. Like, I'm not saying that, why doesn't a fish become a lizard or something like that? But I mean, some incremental change, significant incremental change that is not a loss, but a gain of something. Like a gain of a characteristic, not a mutation like they've done things with like mosquitoes in the subway where they'll change in some way or something with their wings or something like that, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, well, I don't, okay, well, first off, so we're not talking about something changing from one kind into another. Like there's a group of dogs that after some number of generations of breeding, they're actually now cats. But that's not what you're asking for, right? Because you know that, no, if that ever happened, we would know that evolutionary theory is just flat wrong. That would be the example of something that completely disprove it. So we wouldn't expect that. You're saying, why don't we see
like some incremental change? Like we've been breeding dogs for quite a long time. Some change that is not just, like that is something significant. I don't know, something.
Yeah. Well, we do. I think we do. Significance, kind of a rubbery word, isn't it? I think we do see significant changes over, several generations, but not like thousands of generations. If you look at the diversity of dogs, it's actually kind of alarming, how they've changed. And then there are those, I think what they're called, those big lizard things. And I'm not talking about little lizards you put in an aquarium or terrarium in your house. I'm talking about those big jumbo lizards that are bigger than dogs, and they have some valve in their stomach that disappeared and reappeared, and it turns out that's an evolutionary thing. Like, these are, even over many generations, these are relatively small morphological changes. I mean, I guess if I were to try to come up with a short answer to your question, I think it has to do with the time scales. I don't think you see major morphological changes happen over a scale of like 10,000 years. Maybe something with fruit flies and stuff, because they tend to have more generations, but I guess it depends what you mean by significant change. I think
at some point, things start to look somewhat different, right? There usually is some kind of characteristic that would be alarming or different enough, right? It's not. I know it's not, something that swims to something that walks right away, whatever. But let's say, I don't know, something. Gaining indents for gills, or I don't know, like something significant enough that it's not observable in its species ever really. I don't know. I would just assume with the millions of species that we'd have, that we'd at least, since we've really dug deep into scientific inquiry in the last, say, 200 years, that we'd see maybe one species do something like that. That's not a direct loss of something, like mutation through.
I actually wouldn't expect to see it with any of the sort of familiar, we don't want to call it like macrofauna. Like I wouldn't expect a deer to, over 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 years to be able to begin flight, right? Like I don't even mean like their wings. I mean even get like those weird flap that the squirrels have, Although that's a good example, like the flying squirrel. I mean, there you've got. Now that's not a morphological change that, I'm going to have to switch headsets. I just got that warning. So I wouldn't expect to see it in those animals, but you do see things like where there are plants and bacteria that have changed significantly under human observation. Bear with me a second. I'm just going to mute, and then I'm going to absolutely mess up this headset swap because with Clubhouse it never goes well. And please go ahead. I will still be able to hear you.
Yeah. Woodruff just said. Woodruff says he's not giving you the right answer. I know what you're saying. I know it's a very incremental process there, Jeff. That it's not something that. My framing of the question initially probably wasn't doing a very good service there, but I guess I don't know. It's more of an inference, or maybe just by induction, that I'd imagine from a probability standpoint that there'd be something that is significant enough so as to draw some kind of attention to, oh, look what happened here. It doesn't have to be something crazy, but I don't know. I feel like as far as the theory is explained right now, that there has to be at some point something happens that is significant, right? The formation of an eye or of a wing or of whatever, that you'd be able to see into the process, even no matter how small it is, whatever that process starts. Or that's just it's an honest question because I've never actually asked it before.
Well, I think it's a good question, and I think that the answer might be found to in a bit of range finding about what kind of changes would we expect. And again, I wish I could remember the name of that lizard thing that This valve is important for processing some type of a plant. And one of the axolotls are weird. I don't think that's it. But yeah, and you do see some changes. Like there's some changes that happen under human intervention. Although I would anticipate that you would say that those are losses. So, for example, the change of plantains to what we now call the Cavendish banana. The Cavendish banana is just something that we just couldn't even imagine how that would happen in the wild, and it is morphologically different from from their progenitor plantains. But how are they different? Well, they lost the ability to produce seeds, and they lost the ability to produce that nice purple color. So I would get you if you were to the answer for you. Yeah, you're going to say, well, yeah, that's a loss of information. But I mean, there's an evolutionary change that happened under human selection. But again, that's fruit, right? I mean, I wouldn't expect to see something like, say, gopher that sproutes wings. So some of the things you're asking for, I think, it's a bit of a big ask because they would happen on the scale of 50 to 100,000 years. And also, actually, here's a better answer, is the idea that when these changes, let me gather my thoughts, because this is going to make sense, I promise you. People often make the mistake of thinking evolution is about making things better, or more advanced, or more, quote-unquote, highly evolved. But when you actually look at the morphological changes and other, functional or physiological changes that happen over generations, it's more about going from generalized to specialized. And probably one of the best examples is like right now we have let's say cats. You know what I mean? Like the whole collection of cats. I'm talking about your goofy house cat and the lions and the puma and the lynx, all that stuff. And then we have dogs, right? Your canids, your wolves, your fox, right? And we have bears, right? But if you go back in time, you start to discover that there's no difference between a fox and a bear. There's this weird bear dog looking thing. And I thought you can actually track this geographically too, right? Like if you map out where this bear dog looking thing was, you can see where it's speciated into bears and into dogs. But if you go back even further in time, this bear dog looking thing looks a lot less like a bear dog and is this weird sort of generic carnivore looking thing. It's got fangs, it's got 4 feet and a tail, and it's got some sort of cat-like features. So you end up, and then if you trace like where ancient cats came from, geographically, it sort of converges in the same area. And ultimately, if you go down far enough, you get to this thing, I think it's called a myocoid or a myocid, something like that. And it's this weird, generic hunter thing. It's got 4 legs and a tail and teeth and the eyes in the front of its face. And it clearly chased things and killed them and ate them. But it's not a dog, it's not a bear, it's not a cat. It's some sort of very generalized bear, dog, cat looking. So, pardon me for being long-winded here, but my point is it's not about getting better, it's about specialized. And cats are very specialized. And amongst the cats, there are cats with like subspecialties, right? And the same thing for the dogs. Foxes have a bit of a different lifestyle than, say, coyotes. And coyotes have a bit of a different lifestyle than wolves. So I think what happens is as creatures, or not creatures, like all living organisms, including the plants, as they become very, very specialized, they find their niche, and then they either survive in that niche, or the environment changes and they don't survive and they go extinct. But I don't think what you expect to see is you've got a very highly specialized thing, like a squirrel, right? So that's a bad example, so that's fine with. Like a gopher that specializes, lives in tunnels under the ground, and it's done great that way for tens of thousands of years. But that squirrel is now going to start to grow feathers, or the squirrel is going to now develop the ability of flight. I think what my point is, once any species has very highly specialized, it's limited to sort of variability within that specialization, within that niche. And if the environment changes, rather than them adapting with some new morphology, they just go extinct. Is probably a better answer.
Okay. Well, thanks for the explanation there. Of course, do my best to follow along. I don't have much of a scientific background.
compare it to bird or the blended thing. I was thinking of the movie The Relic. I think it was like a picture of like 10 things or something. I thought it was quite humorous.
Well, I mean, I guess it's an interesting kind of thought to think that there's, like if I was to, of course, jump in your worldview for a second, that an animal's in a certain environment, and then it's like something dictates that something change. You know, it's kind of this weird, ethereal. Sometimes when people talk about natural selection, it's almost like I'm not saying you're doing this, but it's almost like like this mysterious force where it kind of dictates to the creature a whim of like its whim. Would you say that all, like in your worldview, let's just narrow it to us as human beings, is everything to do with our anatomy, physiology, is it all explainable by natural evolutionary processes? Yeah, I think our physiology and a lot of our behavior is explained by selection. Sorry, I wanted to say something, but if you have a follow-up question, I don't want to change that. Yeah, just hold on to that thought. Sure. Because in case I lose it. And I was thinking about this the other day. Well, about 3 weeks ago, not the other day. Like for example, I like piano. I like to play the piano. Like by what criteria was us hearing major keys a certain way? Like major keys, it's always described as happy, for example, and minor keys are always described as being sad or having these different tonalities there. And it's like, why does our brain recognize major scales as happy, or the major key as happy, and minor keys as bad? Like what significance does that have to play in survival, in specialization, things of that nature? Oh, boy, that's a rough question. You're going to hurt my brain with that one. I've studied music theory for a while, and that's one of the first things they teach is that sort of happy major key, and then the morose set. But then there's all the other flavors too, like when you suspend the third and replace it with the fourth, that it invigorates, it ejects energy. And then they'll give you all these descriptions of, they're frequencies, right? But it's just sound waves, it's just frequencies interacting with each other. But if you take out that third and replace it with the fourth, there'll always be someone standing there telling you, oh yeah, that's how you inject energy. But it's a tense energy that needs to be resolved. Like, what? What are you talking about? I don't know. I mean, music is fascinating. And the fact that, it seems that other species have an appreciation for rhythm, but not much appreciation for tonality and especially harmony. There's something about humans that really, but honestly, I really think a lot of it's to do with cultural. And probably the thing that sways me the most that way is the role of the minor second, right? Because once you've established that tonal center, like if you're playing a song, just for simplicity, you're playing a song in C major and it's all super happy and upbeat, you go ahead and throw in a C sharp. Like, a conversation in the room will stop because it's such an awful sound. But you listen to a lot of Middle Eastern music, the minor second is well placed. And people from that part of the world, or people who grew up with that kind of music, are never perturbed by hearing a minor second. But to our ear, it's just cacophonous. So things like that guide me to believe that the emotional tonality of musical tonality, if I can use the word tonality in two different ways, the emotional tonality of music, as it emerges from the musical tonality, I think is very, very strongly cultural. It's obviously loosely based in physics because, as you know, those interactions have to do with fractions. But I think the appreciation for those harmonies is very, very strongly tied to the type of music you grew up with in your culture. Well, I think to a degree, because it's sort of analogous to, and I agree with you that that's certainly true. Like there's scales that are specifically they have almost this kind of Middle Eastern kind of a vibe to it. But it's like when people say that that morality is relative to cultures, and it's like, okay, even if you're a moral relativist, there's no culture that you're going to find in which deception or in which, say, betraying your best friends is honorable, for example. Like, yes, they might have different things of what a punishment merits and stuff like that. Sure, you could say that. But even if you're a moral relativist, you have to say, okay, well, why is it that these cultures don't take things which are very obviously dishonorable and make them honorable? There's always some kind of a common thread, and music is kind of the same way. Order, for example. Order in music is something that is a universal principle. There's big changes in rhythm. A lot of African cultures have a very different understanding of rhythm, and it's really interesting for a Westerner to hear those things. But there's always common threads there to each person. And I guess the question would be, what would be naturally advantageous to have orderly music, or to have certain tones or tonalities sound good or bad to people. How would that help in a survival situation where all you're thinking about is berries and bears? Well, I really like the comparison between the sort of moral reasoning and music. And I hope this is how you intended it, because when you started to explain that, where's he going? But in my view, they're very relatable because there are some things that are consistent across cultures. Yeah, murdering somebody for amusement, beating up a child, or beating up an old lady, so betraying your friend. These are things that are just universally frowned upon. Right? And in music, there are some things that are unacceptable in any culture. And I know you can go to East Asia, and they got those weird microtonal things that are recognizable to us, but confusing. But even experienced musicians in this part of the world get thrown when they hear microtones. And it's a lot like the moral reasoning kind of thing. But it says, here's something, so just like punching an old lady in the face is just universally panned, right? You just don't do that. In the same way that if you play a tone of whatever frequency, and then another tone that is 1.5 times the frequency, 3/2. If I remember right, that's the 5th of the scale. Every person on the planet will describe that as a pleasant but bland harmony. And then if you play a tone that is, let's say, 117/34, right? Like just some crazy ratio. Everybody's going to be like, that sounds terrible. Right? So if that's where your comparisons are going, I love it. And that's actually a really good comparison. There's some things that are really foundational, like don't punch an old lady in the face, and don't play the root note with the note that's halfway between the root and the minor second. Just please don't do that, because that sounds like nails on a chalkboard. That's true everywhere. But then once you get into the subtle details, like have you ever been walking somewhere and you see a guy's got something on his lip or something? Are you supposed to tell people that have something on their lip? Well, yeah, you're supposed to if you're friends with the person, or they're a coworker, or somebody you communicate with. But like if you live in the city, like even Canadian cities, you just keep walking. You don't need to get involved, right? And that's a very subtle cultural difference. So, I don't know that I'm answering any question you asked if you asked a question, but I certainly love the comparison. Right. So would it be fair to say that you would treat it as kind of a mystery as to why that is? As to why what is? As to why there seems to be some principle in music, like why, if man is entirely explainable through natural evolutionary processes, why there even is such a thing. Like, why would it even matter the tonality of certain things, or maybe not the tonality, but like the way that we understand music now? Like, wouldn't that be kind of a mystery as to why that is? Like major note happy, minor note sad. Hey, let me ask you this: is this what you're asking? You're saying, well, obviously, as people go to explain evolution, the go-to explanation is, I'm just going to use the term survival of the fittest. And I think I'm not going to explain this like you don't know. I think you already know the fittest means the best fit in the scenario. It doesn't mean the strongest, right? Earthworms are better at being earthworms than anybody else on the planet, right? So best fit for that niche. I think you probably knew that already. But it's always explained in terms of, well, the squirrel that could jump from tree to tree has a better chance of surviving, whereas the squirrels who couldn't jump from tree to tree might starve or be killed by predators. It's always related to survival, right? And actually, the proper standard is selective reproductive success, or differential reproductive success. It's not necessarily about surviving. It's about your ability to propagate your genes, whether you're doing it through seeds or through breeding with a female and then get your head bitten off and your body consumed as nutrients, however you're propagating, you do it that way. I think the problem is that when you start looking at the selection of more subtle or complex traits, and some of the traits some of these traits I'm talking about are also behaviors, like the way bees wiggle their bums to show you where the nectar is, stuff like that. Some of these things are genetically encoded weirdly. Some of these subtle things, I think we make a mistake by kind of laying it out there too simplified and saying, well, the ones that survive can breed, and the ones that die don't breed. Because it makes it sound like that's the only selection mechanism. So there's a really good paper by B.F. Skinner called 3 Levels of Selection, where it's so tidy how he lays out, when you look at actual human behaviors, and this would be true for other critters too, right? But our behavior isn't determined entirely by our genes. Therefore, our behavior isn't determined entirely by our evolutionary history. He's saying, and I'm not saying he invented this, I'm saying he wrote a paper that explains this the best, so it's the one I tend to refer to. But when you make any choice in your life, it's sort of sensible, but what influenced that? Well, obviously your genetics, right, your species history, your evolutionary history contributes to that. But also the history of changes in your culture, right? There's a sociological changes that happen, sociological selection of behaviors. And that's a little different from one person to, you and I have a slightly different social evolution history. And then the third level is like your personal history, the things that your parents taught you, the way you were raised in your home. So this view is that there's actually 3 levels of selection. And when you're online, the whole Christian versus atheist, that discussion very strongly focuses on biological evolution. And then once you start getting into a description of, well, why do we act a certain way? Why do we emotionally react to music a certain way where somebody else wouldn't react that way? Well, that's not evolution, right? That's the fruits of species evolution, cultural, social evolution, changes in selection, and then also a factor of your own history. And I think we're making a mistake by sort of pinning stuff like that on evolution when, obviously, if this is your point, people don't live and die over whether or not they use the minor second in a melody.
Right. Yeah, I guess that was my main question. Like, is the understanding that perhaps the tribes that preferred orderly music erased the tribes who preferred music with screaming, supplemented throughout. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a. I think.
Have you ever hung around have you ever done any music or done any jam, any religious services or anything with our First Nations people?
No, actually, are you Canadian?
Yes. I had no idea what the basic personal exemption was. I thought it was a pretty good clue.
I just figured you knew passing economics and stuff.
Let me without doxing myself, give you one more clue here. Very difficult to breathe today. You walk outside for a bit, and it's pretty hazy and orange, and your breathing is hindered. So now you know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty far from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't. I mean, I've seen it before. Honestly, I hate it. I went to a museum here, local to me, and yeah, the music was awful. I'm gonna be honest. It was really delicate. Like, oh man. But I mean, at least when they were banging the drum, they were banging it. Like it wasn't random. It was at least set to some kind of time. But the thing, it was tough for me for sure.
It's almost atonal. It's got there's no tonal center to it, and where it does go up and down, there's no movement. It's a very dreary type of music. But when it comes to the drumming, man, they're all in the pocket.
Yeah. It's a kind of a primal. I think that would be an adjective that I place there. Maybe primal, or I don't know. It gave me a very visceral reaction, and not a good one. I was like, this. Well, I guess that's a musical difference between cultures.
Yeah. Well, interesting, man. The music was very heavily influenced by a lot of the, obviously European music, but then a lot of the stuff that happened in the Southeast United States, I'm going to say sort of early 1800 through to the end of the 20th century, very much influences the music scene here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, where I'm at, it's all it's like the U.S. supplemented. It's the same thing, basically. It's very, I guess, urban. So all the new rap and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm not a big fan of that either. But all right, well, interesting, man. It's been really nice talking to you, man. I'm sure we'll get to talk again, even though, of course, we radically disagree. I can learn a lot here.
Well, it sounds like you have to go, but let me tell you this. One of the things I've learned about these discussions online, I get into very few bad discussions. And that's because when I get into a bad discussion, I just shrug and walk away. I take the dust off my feet, I guess might be a phrase, if it's a coin a phrase. I'm not into the arguing thing. I love the discussion, and I don't even mind disagreeing with somebody. And sort of, but I don't do, like, the online debates. Once in a while you get a guy who kind of grabs you by the elbow and insists that you're in a debate now and all that, but I enjoy the exchange more so. And I would also say, I think we disagree on very few things. I think the things we disagree on are sort of like critical importance for your grand view of everything in the world. But I think when it comes to right and wrong, I would suspect you and I agree on pretty much everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we definitely agree on a few things. I get, like you said, it's mostly the critical stuff, the things that make everything else stand. I guess for me, how I understand music, how I understand morality, science, love, all of the reason, even all of those things are they're not just like supplemented with God. They're sort of they're on top of that, I guess, foundation. So I mean, those things, I'm sure I haven't talked to you about it, but I think it would be good maybe in the future if we can talk a little bit about that stuff. I'm sure I've talked maybe to Matt here or to a lot of the other guys. Their position on Purple BB is obviously very similar to mine as Christians. But yeah, I mean, music, you're a lot more knowledgeable than me in music. I didn't expect that either.
Well, I played for a long time, and I didn't take it even half seriously. If I got some really good encouragement, and I'll even tell you, I was in Kingston, obviously not where I'm from, but where I had the great joy of spending about 8 or 9 years. And what about something? Faculty. Sorry, student for bid ed faculty. Some faculty positions, you can just take as many courses as you want. So I guess you have to as a student at times, but it was that's really odd. It is. It's a good school. The thing I didn't like about it, being from the part of the country I'm from, rather, is like being a student means you're broke, and it really bothered me that as a professor, when I'd be going to a class, and I'd get out of my '84 Honda Prelude, close the door with that bang, is a rusted bucket, right? And then the students would hop out and push the button on their BMW, and they're driving like a brand new BMW that their parents gave them as a high school graduate. Do you know what I got as a high school grad gift? Luggage. Okay. Well, that's the one thing I didn't like about Queens. Certainly it was nice. It was Ivy League. right? It's something I was quite happy to do that, kind of goes to your head. But the fact that the students who go there are like sweater vest wearing selfish jerks, who are on the lacrosse team, I kind of had my fill of those people. Yeah, that's always got to be lacrosse. I'm with them. I don't know. I always got to be lacrosse. I've never got a guess of where you're from. I'm going to say the big old, probably Central or Northwestern, but was it? Yeah, it's probably I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close to that actually. No. Okay. So then you might be in the lacrosse crowd. I don't know. Did you play lacrosse? No, not at all. Nope. No, my name's not Logan. So. Okay. Yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, I gotta go. But pleasure talking to you, Howard. I'll catch you another time, man. Sounds good. All right. Okay. See ya. Bye, Matt. Wow, I don't know what that's like. Because he and I were tooth and nail, eh? We obviously disagree on all the important core foundational issues. But that's as angry as we could get at each other. I don't know what that was like listening to. I know it's a bunch of softballs. No, it's a paper. No, they weren't. He was actually asking really, really hard-hitting questions. I mean, we were talking mostly about, it wasn't theological things, it was mostly about things in the physical world, and they're very, very challenging questions. I thought they were actually quite insightful. I mean, is your concern that he just wasn't obnoxious enough? No, very well. Or did you want to, now that you're wanting, you want to give me a harder pitch? Maybe. Oh, I take it you're occupied with something.
Yeah, it sounds like it's on the pipe.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last word.
Outside smoke on a pipe.
A pipe, oh. I gotta go, pick up kids. I'm just gonna listen to what the other room's saying. If you're keeping this room rolling, I'll wait to pop back in later.
Hello.
Stay there for